If you love sparkly eyeshadow and fun color stories and are genuinely just a lover of fun eyeshadow and you haven't tried Cbeauty, you are truly missing out. Today we're going to be talking all about Cbeauty eyeshadows, especially palettes and single shadows from brands that continually put out great products. And I'm really excited because this is a collab with my friend Hersa. Hersa, like me, is a lover of Cbeauty, and she's on Instagram and YouTube. She makes really fun, delightful content and has been a friend of mine for years. Her handle is TheHersaWay, so make sure to also watch her video. You'll get twice as many recommendations for amazing Cbeauty products. So the first brand I'm going to talk about is Girl Cult, and you probably have heard of Girl Cult, but they are the first Cbeauty brand that I ever tried several years ago. They truly make some of the coolest makeup that I've ever tried. One of my favorite products they come out with are these little 4-pan eyeshadow palettes, especially these little all shimmer palettes that are packed with really impressive multi-chromes and duochromes. This palette in particular is part of their Herbal Compendium series. This is truly a beautiful grungy green collection, and the packaging on these is so cool. It almost reminds me of like you're opening a shell at the beach, and inside you can see just how high impact these shimmers really are. They actually make a bunch of really great products, but I think I'll have to do a dedicated video on Girl Cult in the future. Next, we have a palette from Krypine Cosmetics, and Krypine Cosmetics really does make some of my all-time favorite eyeshadow palettes. They truly put together some amazing color stories. The formula is so nice. The shimmers are so incredibly special. This palette that I'm holding here is their very first palette that ever came out. It's called Burnt Forest. And the reason why I'm sharing this palette in particular is not only because I myself love it, but it's a color story that I think really does appeal to a lot of people. You get some really light shimmers, some really deep and grungy shimmers. There's just so many looks that you can build with this specific palette. The next brand I have to mention is Anthem. Anthem makes some absolutely killer color stories, and they really think of all the details. So look at the artwork first of all, and then inside you typically get 10 shadows with a pretty even split of mattes and shimmers. This palette is Ice Ferret. It's one of the most beautiful icy tone palettes that I've ever seen. I'm not entirely sure if it's available right now, but don't despair, because honestly, if you can try Anthem and get one of the other color stories, if it's a color story you resonate with, I find the formula to be very consistent, and I don't think that you'll be disappointed. And now that I've had a chance to swatch 3 palettes, you can see just how many amazing shimmers are in these Cbeauty palettes. Okay, so the next brand I'm going to talk about is Chirip or Chinyen, and this is one of my favorite palettes that they've made. It was made in collaboration with my friend Freya. Freya has a style that I just really resonate with. She likes a lot of alternative and goth tones, and this palette, Floating Life, is such a nod to that. And what impresses me about this brand is that they make super affordable palettes and some really interesting, unique color stories. Again, their shimmers are very special. Not all of the color stories appeal to me, but they have quite a good variety of palettes to pick from. The other thing that I want to mention is just that some of the shimmers are a little bit emollient, so it's just something to keep in mind. And next we have a palette from Noircorn. This is Cbeautymall's brand. And if you're not familiar with Cbeautymall, they carry such a wide variety of Cbeauty. And one of my friends actually just came out with a palette with them. This is called Blight Moon. You probably know about her. This is School in Japan's palette, and it's such a unique color story. I think what's really cool about knowing a creator is knowing the inspiration behind some of these incredible products. In this palette, you get a really fiery toned iridescent, you get a very beautiful chartreuse shimmer, a shifty multichrome, and an incredible red shimmer. To me, this is such an incredibly unexpected color story, one that definitely inspires me to create, and I'm very keen to see what else Noircorn comes out with in the future. Another brand that I absolutely have to mention is Narimi. Again, incredible artwork on all of the palettes. This is the palette called Fireflies in the Dark Night, and in these palettes you tend to get 8 pans is the typical layout. You have more mattes than shimmers. The shimmers that you get are very special. You'll at least have one multi-chrome. This one has a multi-chrome and an iridescent. And just as I said for the Blight Moon palette, the Narimi Z palettes feel incredibly surprising in their color stories. There are truly some color stories that I never would have imagined coming up with. Again, the formula is great. One thing I want to mention about the mattes in here compared to some of the other palettes that I've talked about is that they're very soft, they're blendable, they pick up very easily with your brush, but they can break in transit. I have had this happen a couple of times, so it's just something to keep in mind. Most people probably wouldn't find that to be a deal breaker, but it is important to know about. And then last but not least, I have to mention Shellwe makeup. Shellwe is another brand that really has it all when it comes to artwork, innovative color stories. It's been so fun to see how much this brand has really evolved over the past few years. This palette is one of their 5-pan eyeshadow palettes. I think they, like Girl Cult, do a really good job curating even their really small palettes. And Wolfa in particular has one of the craziest multi-chromes that I've seen in a palette. Now I want to get into a few single shadow formulas that I've really come to love. The first is Sheen Effect. I've tried this brand for about a year now and I've been so incredibly impressed. This is one of their blue iridescent shadows. It's called Night Elves, and they make some incredibly glowy multi-chromes and duochromes and iridescents. The texture on a lot of these tends to be smooth. A few of the shades do have a little bit of emollients to the touch, but nothing crazy. Next, I'm going to mention Krypine Cosmetics again. I know I talked about their eyeshadow palettes, but they also have single shadows, and their single shadows are so special. At this point, I don't think that they have this shade, but again, I just wanted to mention it because they truly have such a reliable formula and they've really continued to add new formulas into their lineup. I believe recently, like several months ago, they actually had holographic shadows as well. This is a brand that I'm just genuinely so incredibly excited to see what they do in the future. And now we have a brand called Spenny. They make some really cool baked eyeshadows. These are just so nostalgic for me because it's one of the first eyeshadow formulas that I've ever tried. And I'm talking like in the 90s, like they had these eyeshadows that had these baked textures, the domed powders, and these are just really cool. And not only are they incredibly aesthetically appealing to me, but the shimmer on them is really pretty. And these aren't quite as sparkly as some of the other formulas that I've shown, but they are still really pretty. They have almost like a wet sheen effect. And next we have a brand that I was absolutely captivated with when it came out at the end of 2024. They have these single shadows that come in these red compacts. This is the shade Palpitate. And all of the pans are magnetic and they actually have a palette that you can snap them all into. These singles actually make a really kind of cool, edgy color story, and just in general, these shimmers are out of this world. The mattes are too. I'm just very impressed with the formula, and I'm super excited to see when we're going to get a new release from them because this came out at the end of 2024, and as far as I know, I have not seen them come out with anything else since then. And next we have a shade from Juicy. Juicy is a huge brand in China and they make some incredible kind of just day-to-day neutrals. And their single shadows that come in these little plastic compacts are one of my favorite things that they make. These are like super sparkly metallics. This is the shade Dreamcatcher Butterfly. And these shades are incredibly affordable. I want to say that these you can get for under $10. And I think you can tell from the swatch just how much impact that you get from them. Juicy also makes those little highlighting sticks that I'm obsessed with. Alright y'all, that was all the products that I had to show for this video. I definitely feel like I could go on and on about how much I enjoy Cbeauty products. I'm not going to do that now, but I am going to come back with some more Cbeauty makeup videos in the future. If you made it to the end, please let me know in the comments which of these palettes was most exciting to you, which of the single shadows was most exciting to you, if you've tried anything, or if you'll add anything to your wish list. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.